What was it like, man, to finally be there? I know you were excited. It was great to be there with you, but to finally get the HTSN Summit off the ground and happening, what was it like?
I was joking with somebody. They were like, I think I registered for this like 4 times, and we all did it. It was good though to see everybody. Everybody's really excited to be back out, shaking hands, seeing people, hanging out, doing fun stuff, and we had great attendance. People are just excited to be out finally and doing it, and so it was a lot of fun. It was a good time.
Welcome into the Independent Thinking Podcast. This is your host, Rob Stott. Look, here's the thing about the HTSN Summit that just wrapped up, early April here of 2022. I started at Nationwide back in October of 2019, and at that time, I was looking forward to attending my first HTSN Summit that May, I believe it was scheduled for in 2020, but lo and behold, some things happened and couldn't attend, and then it got kicked around to, maybe later fall that year, spring the next year, fall the next year. That brings us to fall of 21, and then eventually finally getting off the ground here in early spring of 2022. But no, we joke and kid with Hank because he says it on this podcast and even right there in that open that it's been 4 or 5 times of registering for this event, and to finally see it get off the ground down there in Dallas was really a relief, I think, more than anything, but awesome just to see everyone come together from the HTSN community and get down there and idea share, talk with vendors, and of course, like any good nationwide marketing group event, give back as well down there in Dallas. And, just a great opportunity. Of course, we talked with Hank a few weeks ago ahead of the event and what he was excited about going into it, and now to recap it and see just how things went. An event 4 years, it feels like in the making, really 2 years in the making, but, just what he had coming out of it, the feedback he got from members, and just all around a good time, and looking forward to, not having to wait nearly as long to get back on the road with the HTSN group and have another CI Summit here before we know it. So this is Hank Alexander, our director of HTSN, here recapping his HTSN CI Summit on the Independent Thinking Podcast. All right, we're back on the Independent Thinking Podcast, and he's not home, which means there's no dogs. He's on the road getting ready for the HTSN CI Summit, but we still wanted to getting ready for a CEDIA Tech Summit, just coming off of the HTSN CI Summit. Mr. Hank Alexander, appreciate you coming on. Maybe a few less distractions around you this time as we're talking.
Yeah, no distractions. Stuck in a hotel room in the DC area for the CEDIA Business and Tech Summit.
Awesome. Well, I didn't tell you this beforehand. The shirt I'm wearing has, I did it on purpose as a jest because it feels like, if anyone can see, if you're watching the video version, that's the old Nationwide logo on the sleeve here. No brand infractions or branding infractions against me. I'm on the comp team. I can do what I please here, I guess. But but it feels like the last time an HTSN CI Summit happened, this might have been the logo for Nationwide Marketing Group, just in how it's been. But we finally got that off the ground, and I just want to. I know you're on the road traveling still, but what was it like, man, to finally be there? I know you were excited. It was great to be there with you and watching things happen, but to finally get the HTSN Summit off the ground and happening, what was it like?
Yeah, it was. So first of all, I'm going to turn you into the branding police. I know somebody, Amy. I'm just kidding. It was really good. Look, it was, we had it scheduled for the spring of 2020, and then we actually kicked it to the fall of 2020 and then the fall of 21. And we finally, so I was joking with somebody. They were like, I think I registered for this like 4 times, and we all did it. It was good though to see everybody. Everybody's really excited to be back out, shaking hands, seeing people, hanging out, doing fun stuff. And, we had great attendance, and it was, people are just excited to be out finally and doing it. And so it was a lot of fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, it certainly was. And I know, you talk about the just the realization of what we were missing with events and not being in person. And I mean, we went through a couple virtual prime times and other virtual, CEDIA for a minute there. CES went virtual. A lot of these shows went virtual, but to be back in person, I mean, you got the sense of why, we sort of undervalued, I think, of in-person events there for a while, but the second they were taken away and we got to go back to them, you could just, they were vibrant and alive, and the conversations were flowing. And it was just awesome to see that sort of take shape in Dallas.
It was, look, I'll be the first to tell you, I think I don't know, probably mid to late 2019, we were all feeling like we were like overshowed, like, oh, I'm going from this show to that show. And you're exactly right, Rob. You get that ripped away from you, and all of a sudden, you go a couple of years without that interaction, and people are just, they're excited to be out. I was downstairs at the CEDIA Tech Summit. There's like 150, 175 people registered. Lots of education and stuff going on here, and people are just excited to be out and about and get training and see people and see new things, new products from some of the vendors that are here and those kinds of things. So yeah, it's a really cool thing.
What I mean, there's a lot of things you can kind of pick and choose from, during the few days that we were there in Dallas. What was kind of your biggest takeaway, from the time together?
I'll give you the top three in no particular order. The Samsung Experience Center. If you have not been to one of the Samsung Experience Centers, you definitely need to get a hold of your territory or regional manager from Samsung, or get a hold of us. We'll make sure that you get into one of those. That was top notch. That's a phenomenal facility, and really excited that they've got those. And the one in Dallas is actually getting a renovation right after we left. They're getting ready to start on a renovation. So that was really cool. The one-on-ones and education from our vendors was top notch. Pro AV and talking about 8K audio and all of those things, CEDIA, top notch classes from our vendors. And I think the thing that I took away was the generosity and the amazing support that our members and our vendors, contributing to. It was a fun night, and people way smarter than me were the ones that were like, we got to do something fun. Let's do a casino night. And I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. And we raised $10,000, that half of it goes to a local veterans facility in Dallas, and the other half goes to Nathan Tawil, a charity of his choice in San Antonio. And it was just that generosity and give back was, it was a lot of fun and just amazing to see.
So I want to kind of break it down into two parts. I want to start with the give back. And obviously that event was in and of itself just something that I hope we do again, because that was a lot of fun. You get that kind of, it wasn't there was money being donated and to play with the moose money, as we were calling it, affectionately. It was a lot of fun to kind of see those. You felt like you were at a casino, and you had those table conversations and people playing at craps tables and just walking around and having a good time. And, talk about the decision. Was there any meaning behind choosing to give to the local veterans facility that you guys identified?
So at the last HTSN CI Summit in Phoenix, we packed medical or home kits, soap and necessities for some veterans. And it just kind of felt like, let's just kind of keep that thread going. And it was really cool. Sit at a craps table and we brought in some dealers, some Vegas style dealers, and set up the tables. And around the perimeter, you got the vendors with a tabletop show, and you got guys betting. I don't know, at some point, I know in the night, the moose money was, people were like putting down $20,000-$30,000 a hand in moose money. And it was so fun, because everybody was having a good time, and it was a good cause. And we went into it and we told people, like, don't just get off in your own little pod and hang out with the people you always hang out with. Meet 10 new people, whether that's vendors or members, and everybody did it. Everybody met new people and came away with new relationships and new contacts and new vendors and people to reach out to. And it was a lot of fun. So
that night alone, I think I met your quota and exceeded it, during casino night, just the amount of people that we were sitting next to and talking and stuff. My only recommendation is no Mike Whitaker at the next show as a dealer, because he took some people for, they say the house always wins. Mike Whitaker was a constant winner at that show.
I had some complaints about Mike Whitaker as the dealer.
Hiding some cards up his sleeves or something. I
don't know what he was doing. But yeah, that duly noted.
No,
we'll get Lee McDonald. We'll get Lee in there. Maybe we'll get lucky and we can bring PJ or Tom or somebody to be a dealer for a night.
It was certainly a lot of fun, and a great way to give back, a very unique way for sure, and to tie it in, like you mentioned, with the vendor event that was going on, the tabletops, and just made for an all around a fun experience. So and to have that give back tied into it was just a lot of fun as well. I want to go back to the Samsung event, because that experience center there at the World Trade Center in Dallas was, as you mentioned, awesome. I know they're renovating it and doing some really cool. They were describing some of the upgrades they were making, possibly like even moving into a new space within that building, because they just need the space. But what was it like to walk through that? What do you think obviously you get up close with the products, but for the members that were there, what's the real benefit of being able to walk through a center like that and hear from Samsung directly?
So first of all, there's not a lot of us that have probably, stood next to or seen a 140-inch wall TV, and, to find out that Samsung is delivering and installing like one every 2 or 3 weeks. It's just it's a great feat. We've got some guys that have got some on bid as we speak. But I think also, seeing some new ways of displaying product. They have the smart kitchens in there, as well as the CE side of it covered, seeing some new ways of displaying things and doing things. And then, the deep dive that Jim Mayo and his team did on the 2022 product and some of the changes and things that they've got going on. And it gives guys that opportunity to see some things that they maybe don't get to see on a normal basis. Maybe if they go to CES or I'm not sure if Samsung, I don't think they did the wall at the last CEDIA that they were at. So that would have been like 2019. Right. I don't think they had the wall there. So there were guys at that summit that they've heard about the wall, but to actually see it and stand next to it and understand the technology behind it and what it takes to install it and all those kinds of things. Those guys put it on. They did a really good job. And yeah, they kind of started that process as just kind of a test and see if it would take off. And you're exactly right. They are moving to a new location inside of the design center there because they need more room. The thing is booked out all the time.
It's crazy to see. And it was kind of unique in how they laid it out too, because as you mentioned, there were sort of the vignettes, if you will, like an outdoor vignette. I think they had the wall next to like an outdoor kitchen, which was kind of cool. Obviously, I don't think, given all the technology behind it, you wouldn't want to put the wall outdoors, but but to kind of see the way things were set up in sort of a lifestyle sort of fashion, really allowed, I think, to your point, the integrator to see, new ways of displaying things so that it makes sense to a customer walking through. You should actually experience it like a customer, as you're walking through that Samsung center. But just also cool to see.
Guys, real quick, a couple of guys, sorry to interrupt, of guys actually made a comment. There's one room that's got several frame TVs in it and pictures. And a couple of guys actually were like, I'm doing something real similar after, they were in there videotaping it, taking pictures. I'm doing that in my showroom. And it was one of those things that when you see it and you experience that and you go, that's the way you should display the frame. And so it was interesting.
Yeah. And to that specific scene, it's like they had it set up like an art gallery, like you're walking through a museum. And I think I've seen that in the frame's been around. Obviously they're making changes to it and throwing some awesome new models out there to go in that lineup. But that's one of the things they've always they've leaned more into it, shows is showing it in sort of, at a CES or, even further back at like an EFO, the last time they had one, putting it in sort of this display, like you're walking through a museum, but it is to that point, having sort of a unique perspective, walking through a space like that and getting those ideas. So it was cool to see that all come through, and, integrators to take away things like that. So cool to hear that they're going to put some of those displays in their spaces.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it was like, okay, that makes this, not only to get some training, but it makes it kind of worthwhile when they go, oh, I like that display idea and I'm going to do that. So
the one-on-ones I know were another thing you mentioned, that obviously provided some big value and the conversations between a dealer and some of our vendor partners. What kind of things came out of that, and what sort of feedback, or maybe even not necessarily between a vendor and a dealer, but like challenges in the space that they're dealing with right now? What kind of came out of those conversations you were having, at Summit down there in Dallas?
Yeah. So, look, we do a really good job of getting our vendors to prime time and an opportunity for them to meet with vendors, but to have that, here's a 15-minute block where you can sit down with the key decision makers at a vendor and, find out about availability or new product or program or whatever it might be, and just start to kind of pull some of those layers away and really get to, the meat of doing some business. It really is, it's a neat process to listen to that. And it's different between vendors and members and distributors and members and all of those things. It's just, that's the part of it that I think, people are like, I would say they like that the most, because they don't get that FaceTime with some of those folks all the time. And, I'll just say it works. Like, we came away with, I think, 4 or 5 new members, HTSN members at the event. And it was because they had that opportunity to meet with a vendor and go, oh, I get it. I get what the group does. And it's the sharing and it's the community and it's all of those things. Great programs, but it's all of that, the rest of that stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, awesome again, like you said, to see some members, prospects at the time, sign up and become new members. So I know a lot can come out of those conversations. There's the one-on-ones, and then even when you're having like your bigger group conversations too, talking, as a whole group. And to me, that was almost some of the most interesting, because, I could sit there and eavesdrop a little bit and hear some of the conversations between a vendor and a dealer. But to hear some of like the broader challenges that like a dealer might be facing, and then he can say that out in like an open forum and have other members, it might be across the country. It's having a similar type problem that they can answer it for them and things like that. Where, always cool to see. Were there any, like, I don't know, surprises as far as some of the things that they brought up, just sort of on a more general, topic as sort of what they're dealing with right now?
I think that, obviously supply chain, everybody's dealing with supply chain. That one's kind of a no-brainer, but I would say from a technological standpoint, you get into a room like that and somebody goes, I'm having XYZ issue. And somebody goes, yep, I just happened to figure out it's this and this. And you go, and everybody's having the same problem. And until you put everybody together, you don't realize it. And then I had one member come up and goes, yeah, I'm not in this alone. It was actually kind of cool. I'm not in this. I'm not out there just trying to solve problems by myself. And if I have a technical problem and I don't get the right person at technical help at a vendor, that I've got other people I can now count on, and I can reach out to them and go, hey, I'm experiencing this. A couple of the guys, well, not, I would say more than a handful of the guys were like swapping texts back and forth already on some stuff. And so it's
awesome.
I think that's a part of it, that you get those kind of lasting relationships and you're not in it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, some of that stuff you get into the super technical stuff is like so over my head, but cool to see that sort of come to fruition and those problems actively being solved to the point where they could maybe text back to one of their techs and actually have it, go out to a job and get that solution answered today, while they're sitting there, which is pretty awesome. But I know this summit, we'll kind of close it out here, but this summit was the coming out party for a couple of new vendors and distributor partners and things like that. So I know, Snap One, this was their first HTSN CI Summit, and Powerhouse was there as a distributor partner. So
D&H came
D&H
for the first time.
their Pro AV side and talking about all that. So what was it like to see all of those new faces sort of come together? Like, does it make it real? Obviously you're talking to these guys every day and working on these programs, but what was that moment like for you to see all of them together in a room?
Yeah, it was really good. We were talking about it going into it, and actually even post, you've got Power Shades, first time they'd been there. D&H with their Pro AV, first time they were there.
Cedia too. The Cedia program.
The folks from Cedia were there. First time they've ever been there. I mean, there was a lot of firsts. It's been a couple of years, obviously, since we've done it. So there were some new programs and some things. And so it was really good to have all of those folks there. And they all came away with, the aha moment. We're already having conversations about next year with some of those folks. So some kind of cool stuff. Rob and I were talking about off camera coming for next year. So there's some really interesting things that are going on the back end for CDA for the CI Summit for next year.
Well, without getting into specifics, what do you learn coming out of this event that you can kind of take and, as you're thinking about next year, what sort of things are you already talking about or having those conversations with yourself about what can be better?
Yeah. So number one, longer event. We were there Wednesday, we'll say Wednesday noon to Friday noon. I think that the things I heard were longer. So that's good. It's always a balancing act of taking somebody away from their business. And we always tell people, this is an opportunity to work on your business, not in it. So you got that balancing act of not pulling somebody out for a long period of time, but we're almost collectively hearing, longer. The other thing that I heard at the summit, and it's always a big thing for Nationwide, is voice of member. So I can stand up there for 2 hours and probably not say a thing for those 2 hours. The vendors the same way. The vendor has kind of their perspective, but the guy, the member is the feet on the street. They're the ones that are living it day in and day out. And so I think we're going to integrate some more that voice of member into the next event. Have a couple of member-led roundtables and panels. More technology.
I'd offer you a live in-person independent thinking podcast session with a member. So I'm not going to put you on the spot and have it be recorded and set in stone here. But hey, maybe that's an opportunity on stage.
We'll set up a podcast booth next time. It'll be done. It'll be done. So yeah, there's. Like I said, there's a few things that have already started to kind of come out of it, more education. So anyway.
Well, it's exciting. I know, it was great to be there. And to say, the funny thing is, like, I think back to when I started, it was October 2019 here. I haven't missed an HTSN Summit. So it's cool to say that I've been able to be at them and be
another
there.
First. Right? Spot, wasn't it? Another newbie for the HTSN Summit.
It was really cool to be there and see just all the interactions and the education and the networking. And I mean, throw a couple axes here and there, get into a escape room here or there and just have some fun, man. It was
ride an
awesome.
Electric bike around the convention center. Yeah. Get in trouble by the convention center.
Breaking speed limits, indoor speed limits. But no, it was a lot of fun. And, to say I'd be looking forward to the next one is a vast understatement. So I know you're already, as you talked about, you got things in motion, and I'm looking forward to it, wherever it may land and whatever it may involve. So, appreciate you having us out there, and and of course, taking some time while you're on the road and staying busy to share sort of your thoughts and wrap it up with us.
Well, I appreciate you guys being there, and I appreciate everybody that was there, vendors, members, prospects, press, everybody. It was a lot of fun, and this is going to come back to bite me. I wish we weren't waiting a year to do it.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I know.
No. Well, you've got a busy schedule anyway until then. So I know you're on the road traveling now, and we enjoy your time at these tech summits and with CEDIA and everyone there. So, but we'll catch you, here again soon, Hank.
If you're coming to any of the tech summits, come and find us.
See you there, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
And thanks again to Hank, a podcast that itself felt like it was 2 years in the making. So happy to finally have that one in the books and be able to look ahead to the next CI Summit and get back, like we said, on the road with that group and reconnect before we know it. So as always, appreciate you listening to the Independent Thinking Podcast, and we will catch you next time.